Hey, you lost, bro? The janitor's closet is that way. The laughter came fast, loud, sharp. It cracked across the lunchtime courtyard like a whip, drawing heads and phones toward the cluster near the west side benches. Sunlight spilled across concrete. A fountain gurgled softly in the background. Lunch trays clattered against stone tables. Sneakers scraped pavement. Dozens of students turned to look, some whispering, some chuckling, most just waiting for drama. At the center stood two tall white boys in varsity jackets, Ryan and Brent. They towered, smirking, flanked by hangers-on holding energy drinks and egos. Their target stood still, a lean black teenager in all black. Fresh Jordan 1 South, quiet posture, eyes unreadable. He didn't respond, didn't blink. But something in the stillness made the crowd shift, uneasy like they'd seen this stillness before. Somewhere dangerous. Brent learned with a smirk. Maybe don't wear your mom's church clothes to school next time. Man. Yeah. Are you about to preach or clean toilets? The laughter doubled. Phones were up now. Someone shouted, "World Star!" If you believe no kid should be mocked for how they look or where they're from, type respect in the comments. Then silence, because the boy finally moved. No anger, no insult, just a slow step forward. He dropped his bag. Knees slightly bent, arms relaxed. Ryan laughed nervously. What, you gonna cry or thud? In one blink, Ryan's foot was yanked off the ground. His body flipped sideways and landed flat on his back hard. His soda exploded on impact. Gasps. Phones froze in mid-record. Brent stepped back instinctively. Back. Up. The voice was calm, low. The boy had turned to Brent, didn't raise his fists. Just stared. Still. And then, I'm Malik Thomas. I moved here from Baltimore. National Youth Champion Wing Chun Judo and TKD. And if either of you touch my stuff again, I'll show you round 2. No one moved. Brent's lips parted, but no sound came. A teacher came running. What's going on? She saw Ryan groaning on the ground and Brent frozen. Then she turned to the black kid standing like nothing had happened. Malik, she said. You okay? Malik nodded once. Picked up his bag. Walked through the silent crowd. The sea of students parted like he was royalty. Or something more. Dangerous. One of the younger freshmen whispered, barely audible. Yo, I think we just met the main character. The next day, the halls weren't quiet. They were silent, not the kind of silence that meant boredom. The kind that followed a storm. Malik walked to class with his hoodie up and headphones in, music off, just enough to keep the curious away. Locker doors clicked shut when he passed. Conversation stopped. The same seniors who ruled the cafeteria yesterday suddenly watched him like they were seeing a ghost, or something worse. Brent was back at school limping. No one said much about Ryan. He wasn't injured badly, just bruised, ego more than ribs. But the story was spreading faster than truth could keep up. Karate killer, someone called Malik. Another said he'd flipped a guy with one hand and caught his phone mid-air. Even the teachers were whispering, but Malik didn't care. He just wanted to get through it. He took his seat at the back of Mrs. Camden's history class, second row from the window. Always near an exit habit, not preference. His notebook was already open. Lines are sharp. Titles underlined in red. Mrs. Camden walked in, paused. She knew. Everyone did, but she said nothing. Just tapped the whiteboard and started talking about the gym. The Emancipation Proclamation, irony thick in the air. Malik kept his eyes forward until, Malik, she said, catching him off guard. Why do you think Lincoln waited so long to issue it? Some students turned, surprised she'd call on him. Malik didn't blink, because it wasn't about morality. It was about power, leverage, timing. He needed the upper hand, not just the high ground. Silence again. Mrs. Camden tilted her head. A slow smile cracked. That is absolutely correct. Even she looked surprised. Someone behind him whispered, "Yo." But Malik didn't turn out after class. He stayed behind. Mrs. Camden approached. Carefully, the way people do when they've only heard stories. "That was a sharp answer," she said. "Where'd you learn that?" He shrugged. "My mom." Camden nodded. "She is a teacher?" He looked down. "Was." That pause lingered. Then she asked what no one else had bothered to. "You okay after yesterday?" He finally met her eyes. "I didn't throw out the first insult. I didn't throw the first punch. But I will always finish it clean." Later that evening, his room was a shrine to control. No clutter. No chaos. A single photo of his mom on the dresser mid-laugh, braided hair tied up, hands held in mid-form. She taught self-defense classes in Baltimore. Taught kids who were told they'd never be more than a headline. Taught Malik when he was 5. Taught him when to fight. And more importantly, when not to. She died last year. Wrong place, wrong time. Malik never talked about it. Never blamed the streets or the system. He just trained, studied, moved. Meanwhile, in the faculty lounge, Coach Hammond grunted. "I don't care what some punk kid did in the courtyard. He's not joining my team. Not with that attitude." Another teacher replied softly, "But he's scoring high on everything. I mean, his placement test blew the curve." Hammond snorted. "Yeah, well, we'll see how long that lasts." Back in his room, Malik did push-ups to the sound of silence. His breathing is steady. Every motion is a memory. Every rep, a promise. Story changed every period. By third bell, Malik had supposedly taken down both seniors with a single sweep. By lunch, he disarmed a teacher and recited Sun Tzu. The truth didn't matter anymore. Malik had become a myth, and myths spread fast. The courtyard benches he once walked past now quieted as he approached. People watched. Not with mockery, not even fear, just curiosity. Who was he? Why hadn't he bragged? Why did silence feel scarier than shouting? At the lunch table, Maya and Jess whispered behind cupped hands. They weren't like the varsity crowd. Jess ran a V club. Maya did spoken. "Word on Fridays. He's in my English class," Jess whispered. "Wrote an essay that made Ms. Lang cry." "Cried?" Maya blinked. "Girl, that teacher has been dead inside for 6 years." They laughed, but softly, like the hallway itself was listening. And the locker room. Brent seethed. Ryan wasn't back yet. The humiliation still lingered on his face. And it wasn't just Malik, it was the whispers. The way people looked at him now, like he'd been exposed. "We can't let this kid rewrite the rules," he muttered. "He gets one lucky movie, and now he's Bruce Lee?" "Jake, there." Friend replied quietly, "It wasn't luck." Brent turned. "Are you switching sides?" Jake said nothing, but that silence was its own betrayal. By midweek, a flyer appeared, just one, on the message board near the gym. Martial Arts Club. Interest meeting, Friday, room 207, no name. No sponsor. Just a small, sharp origami dragon tacked to the corner. Malik hadn't made it, but someone had. That night, Malik returned to the community dojo down the block. It was run by Mr. Akiro, an old friend of his mother's. The place smelled like cedar and sweat. The kind of place you respected by breathing quieter. "You're making waves," Akiro said, tossing Malik a towel. "Is that what you came for?" Malik shook his head. "No, sensei. I just wanted to blend in. Lay low," Akiro smirked. "Funny. That's never worked for anyone who walks like you fight." Friday came. Room 207 filled faster than anyone expected. At least 20 students sat in folding chairs. Some wore gym clothes. Some brought nothing but questions. Malik walked in and froze. He didn't expect this, didn't ask for it. But in the front row, one student caught his eye. It was Jessica, a V Club girl. In her lap was a hand-drawn flyer that said, "Fight for focus, not for followers." She didn't smile, just nodded once. Brent saw the photo later on Snap. Malik at the front of the room. Hands folded, posture tight. Dozens of students around him listening. Unbelievable. Brent muttered. But inside, a seed of fear had taken root. Because this wasn't about fighting anymore. Malik was becoming something else. That evening, Malik sat on his rooftop. Beneath the stars, back straight, breathing even. In his hands, a single paper crane. Not his. It had slipped into his locker. No note, no name. Just folded perfectly like someone else understood what stillness really meant. The email arrived before the first bell. From Coach Hammond to Staff Distribution. List subject: Unauthorized student activities. It has come to my attention that a non-sanctioned martial arts club has been meeting on campus. This raises concerns regarding safety, insurance liability, and appropriate faculty oversight. Until this matter is formally reviewed by the administration, all associated meetings are to cease immediately. Malik stood outside room 207 that afternoon. Bag in hand. The door was locked. A taped note read, "Meeting canceled until further notice by order of the dean." He didn't react, didn't flinch. But behind him, the crowd did. Jessica stood to his left. A freshman boy with boxing wraps on his wrists shifted awkwardly. Even Jake, Brent's friend, was there, leaning against the wall like he hadn't expected to show up, but came anyway. Whispers started. They really shut it down? Why? He wasn't even teaching violence. Malik stepped back, looked at the sign. Then I walked away. That night, a meeting was held. The staff lounge buzzed with polite concern and unspoken judgment. "We're setting a precedent," Hammond said. "If we allow one student to form a combat-focused group without supervision, what stops another?" "He's not causing trouble," Mrs. Camden offered. "He's leading, quietly. The kids feel safe around him." "That's not the point," Hammond snapped. "This is a school, not a dojo." Camden stared at him. "Then maybe we should ask ourselves why a dojo is the only place some of these kids feel respected." The room fell silent. Malik spent the evening training alone. No dojo, no rooftop, just the old playground at Juniper Park. Under a dim street lamp, he ran drills. Not for show. For center. His fists sliced air like a metronome, elbows tucked, feet quiet. But for the first time in weeks, something trembled inside him. Not fear. No. Doubt. Just frustration. That even when you didn't fight, back just stood straight, they still found ways to bend your spine. Monday morning. He entered school and found a note taped to his locker. "They don't want to see you rise." No name, just black ink, bold and slanted. Underneath it, someone had scribbled a reply in different handwriting. "Rise anyway." He stared at both lines for a long time. Didn't take the note down. Didn't crumple it. He left it for everyone to read. In the office, Dean Harper reviewed Malik's file. High test scores. No behavioral issues. Strong community references. What exactly is our concern here? Coach Hammond leaned forward. "He's unpredictable." Harper raised an eyebrow. "Or maybe he just doesn't fit your mold." Later that day, Malik walked past the gym. The door was cracked open. Inside, Coach Hammond watched students spar for wrestling tryouts. Malik paused, just one breath. Hammond saw him, met his gaze, then turned away. That night, room 207 lit up again. Unofficially. Students gathered in chairs again. No flyers this time. No announcement. Just a chain text that read, "We moved silent." Room 207. No instructors. Just discipline. Jessica brought her notebook. Jake brought gloves. Malik didn't speak at first, but he bowed once, and they all followed. Malik didn't protest, didn't argue about the club shutdown, didn't call it unfair or make speeches. He just showed up to class, to practice, to everything. And every time he did, the room changed a little. Miss Lang's English class. She handed back essays. Red ink scribble across most pages, but when she reached Malik, she hesitated. No red marks, just a note at the top in small, looping handwriting. You made me stop and breathe. Thank you. Malik didn't smile, just nodded. Folded the paper into his binder. Behind him, Brent watched. His own paper had a C- scrawled across it. Lunchtime. Malik sat alone again. By choice, but the table behind him was full. Students who used to mock him now sat quieter, angled slightly toward him, not speaking, just listening, like they were trying to absorb something by proximity. Jessica passed by and dropped a note as she walked. The sparrow doesn't chase thunder. It simply flies through it. Malik opened it, eyes narrowing for a second. Not confused, just thoughtful. He kept the note. That afternoon, Mrs. Camden hosted a mock debate in history class. Topic: Power versus Peace. Which sustains longer? Two teams, loud voices, raised hands. Malik didn't speak for most of it. Until the final 5 minutes, Camden looked at him directly. Mr. Thomas, any thoughts? He stood slowly, not towering, not trying to dominate, but his voice carried quiet. Certain. Peace is the garden. Power is the fence. You can't protect what you never grew. The room froze. Even the debaters who'd been shouting 5 minutes ago sat down without being told. Camden started. Well, I think that ends the debate. Outside, Malik found a folded piece of notebook paper taped to his locker. Another message. You make silence feel louder than rage. No name, but below it, someone had drawn a crane again, this time with fire in its wings. That night, in room 207, the club continued off the record. No punches thrown, no kicks, no mats. Just slow forms, stances, breathing drills, discipline over destruction. Jake practiced footwork beside Maya. Jessica led warm-ups now. Malik watched, corrected posture, nodded quietly, and still no selfies. No videos. No cloud dash chasing. Just presence. Meanwhile, Coach Hammond reviewed team rosters. Kids pulling top marks, he muttered. Teachers praised him left and right. The assistant coach, younger and softer spoken, glanced at Malik's file. He could anchor the wrestling team, or debate, or anything really. Hammond leaned back in his chair. He's making us look like we missed something. The assistant didn't reply, but both men felt it. This wasn't about what Malik was doing anymore. It was about how he did it. Without asking permission. Without needing approval. Friday. Malik sat in the front row during the school assembly. Not in the back like usual. Principal Young called names for academic awards. Highest GPA in 10th grade, Malik Thomas. Applause rose like a wave. He walked up, calm, controlled. Handshake firm. As he turned to go back down the stairs, he caught Brent watching from the side. Not angry. Just off balance, like everything he thought he knew was shifting beneath him. Home, Malik added the certificate to a drawer. Next to the crane notes. The flyer Jessica made. A printout of the club shutdown email. A folded photo of his mom, taped at the corner. None of it flashy, but all of it is real. Let's see you fight without hiding behind your little club. The words exploded through the gym like a starting pistol. It was a spirit rally day. Bleachers packed, music thumping. Teachers half watching, students half listening, but now? Everyone was silent. Brent stood at the center of the court, microphone in one hand, a smirk curling across his face. He tossed a wrestling helmet at Malik's feet. Come on, tough guy. You flipped Ryan once. Think you can do it again in front of a crowd? Whispers rippled like electricity. Phones are already filming. This wasn't just taunting anymore, it was a challenge. Malik stared down at the helmet. Didn't move. Didn't speak. He looked around at the students filling the bleachers. Some cheering. Some are unsure. Coach Hammond leaned in from the sidelines. Arms crossed. He was watching two. Waiting. Jessica stood behind the team bench, fists clenched. This is a setup, she whispered. They want him to mess up, show aggression. Just one wrong move. But Malik didn't move wrong. He stepped forward, picked up the helmet, and walked slowly, deliberately to the microphone. He didn't raise his voice, didn't shout. Just spoke into the silence. You're not asking me to wrestle. You're asking me to prove I belong here. That line hung in the air, but I don't need to prove anything. I'm not the one who's scared of change. Brent laughed. Scared? I'm not scared of you. Malik's stare hardened, not cold, just surgical. You're scared of what it means when someone like me doesn't back down. The gym murmured. A few gasps. Some kids clapped. Nervously. Coach Hammond stepped forward, trying to cut the tension. That's enough, he barked. Let's keep this event on track. But Brent wasn't done. He yanked the mic back. You think you're better than us? You think being smart and throwing one lucky punch makes you king of this school? Malik took one slow step forward. I don't think I'm better. Pause. I think you're angry because you finally met someone you couldn't control. If you believe true strength doesn't need to shout, type dignity. In the comments. Silence again. But heavier now. Jessica whispered to Jake. Did you see his hands? Perfect stance. But he never clenched a fist. Jake nodded. He was ready, but he chose not to. The principal came down from the stage, pulled the mic, gave Brent a firm look. Enough. Both of you. Back to your seats. Malik turned and walked unrushed back toward the side of the gym, and as he passed, someone stood up. Then another. Then another. Jessica. Jake. Even. Two seniors who'd never spoken to him before. They didn't cheer. They just stood still, quiet, with him. Brent sat down, jaw tight, for the first time. It felt like he'd lost, not just the crowd, but the mirror, because what stared back at him wasn't a fight he could win. It was a presence he couldn't match. Later that night, Malik sat in room 207, alone. Just breathing, not victorious. Just steady. He unfolded the latest note left in his locker. You didn't fight. You led. Taped beside it was a grainy Polaroid. His mom. In her GI. Arms crossed. Same stillness. Same power. It started with a clip. 17 seconds. Posted by a sophomore named Trey who barely had 50 followers. It showed Malik on the gym floor. Calm. Focused. Brent shouting. But the audio, you're not asking me to wrestle. You're asking me to prove I belong here, hit like thunder. By morning, it had 500,000 views. Then 1 million. Then 3. The caption said, this kid just bodged an entire school system without raising his voice. #Silent Power was trending. On TikTok by noon. Instagram pages reposted it. Twitter activists quoted it. Even the local news picked it up with the headline, Baltimore teen delivers mic drop moment against racism without throwing a punch. At school, Malik walked into stares, not hostile, not mocking. Just stunned. People moved out of his way again. But this time, not from fear, from respect. Jessica caught up with him between classes. Do you know you're viral? He shrugged. Didn't ask to be. Yeah, but the universe answered anyway. She handed him her phone. Look. It was a message. From a blue checkmark account, a former Olympic martial artist. Tell him I saw his form. Tell him I saw his restraint. That's power. Later that afternoon, Principal Young called him into her office. The room was unusually quiet. She didn't speak at first. Just handed him a manila folder. Inside, a letter from the district. Permission granted for an official extracurricular club. Room 207. Was now legit. She looked him in the eyes. They're calling it the Mullick effect. He blinked. She smiled. Just remember who you are, not just what they say you are. He nodded. And left. That evening, room 207 overflowed. Too many chairs. Too little space. People were showing up who didn't even go to the school. Alumni, parents, one man in a business suit who just wanted to shake Mullick's hand. You reminded me why I used to walk tall. The man said. Mullick didn't know how to respond. So he bowed. Simple. Grounded. And the man bowed back. Coach Hammond watched from the hallway. Arms folded. Face unreadable. The assistant coach stood next to him. He didn't even fight back, the assistant said. And somehow he won. Hammond didn't answer. Just stared. At home. Mullick placed the district letter next to his mother's photo. One slow breath. Then another. He whispered, You told me stillness speaks. And now, the world was listening. The school didn't change overnight, but it started to notice itself. First, the posters came down. Old flyers lining the gym walls, half torn, yellowing, mostly featured white athletes and alumni. Coach Hammond always said they were tradition. But one morning, they were gone, replaced by fresh frames, diverse faces. One was Mullick, standing center left in black and white, his stance calm, caption underneath, Power doesn't shout, it stands. Then the rules shifted, dress codes got updated. Language in the handbook revised terms like disruptive behavior, reworded to protect rather than punish. No official announcement, but Camden smiled when she saw the changes printed on her desk. He's not loud, she whispered to another teacher, but somehow his silence moves paper. The district sent visitors next. Not to shut things down, but to study them. Board members sat in the back of room 207 during meetings, scribbling notes, watching how Mullick led without ever needing a whistle or a whiteboard. He didn't lecture. He demonstrated. Sometimes with his hands, sometimes with a look, most times by doing nothing but standing tall. Jessica presented a proposal to the PTA, a wellness initiative based on martial arts principles: breathing, movement, mental clarity. Mullick stood beside her as she spoke. He didn't say a word, but every parent in the room looked his way. And listened. The school paper featured a front-page story. Room 207. More than martial arts. A place for presence, not punches. The article quoted freshmen who said the space helped them focus, sophomores who said they stopped skipping lunch, even a senior who admitted he stopped clowning around so much because Mullick made stillness look cool. Brent read that article 3 times. He didn't understand it, didn't want to, but I couldn't stop, especially the last line. We used to look for loud heroes, but now we stand for the ones who stay centered. In staff meetings, things shifted. Camden was asked to help redesign student leadership training. The phrase inclusive excellence wasn't just on banners, it was now part of hiring. Hammond stayed quiet until the principal asked if he'd consider nominating a student for district honors. He hesitated. Then said, Mullick Thomas. Mullick never celebrated. Not with cake. Not with speeches. He simply stayed after school one Thursday, sweeping the floor of room 207 after everyone left. He found a new crane by the WINDOWSILL. This one folded from black parchment, with gold ink. You are the proof we were waiting for. He smiled just once and tucked it into his jacket. That night, he walked home under warm streetlights. Not a single siren, not a single shout, just his own. Footsteps. Soft, steady. It started with a rumor. Malik cheated on his exams. Malik threatened. Brent in the hallway. Malik's mom wasn't a real instructor, just some street hustler with a black belt from YouTube. No one said it directly to him, but whispers slithered under doors. Teachers glanced twice. A few students stopped making eye contact. The air had shifted again. At lunch, his table was empty. Jessica was absent. Jake avoided his gaze. Even room 207 was half full that day. And Coach Hammond? Back to folded arms and narrowed eyes. The real blow came after school. Principal Young called Malik in. Her voice wasn't angry, but it wasn't warm either. We received an anonymous tip, she said carefully, accusing you of threatening another student, Brent, specifically. Malik blinked, didn't speak, didn't panic. But inside something cracked. There's no proof, Malik, and frankly, it doesn't sound like you. But district policy requires we suspend you until it's reviewed. He nodded. Once. Quiet. Then stood. She looked at him for a long time. You okay? His voice barely above a breath. I thought I was. That night, room 207 stayed dark. Key sat unused. The crane on his desk drooped, one wing bent by time. Malik didn't train, didn't read, didn't even go home right away. He just walked through alleyways, through old neighborhoods his mom once jogged in. He ended up at Juniper Park, the same swing set, same cracked rubber mats. He sat, head down. The stillness that had once held him now felt empty. Then a shadow moved. Jessica. No words, no hug, just a folded flyer. She placed it in his hand and sat beside him. He opened it. Room 207. Friday, no leaders, no speeches, just presence. They're scared of you, she finally said. Not because of what you did, but because of what you made possible. The next day, the story began to crumble. Jake stepped forward, told the truth. He'd overheard Brent and two others planning it. Said they wanted Malik put in his place. He recorded the conversation, played it back, clear as day. Principal Young listened in silence, then called district HR. By noon, Malik's suspension was lifted. And Brent? Suspended instead. Malik returned that afternoon. Books in hand. No victory lap, no smile, just steady steps toward room 207, where 25 students were already waiting in silence. He bowed. They bowed back. Jessica placed a new crane on the WINDOWSILL. This one made of silver paper, marked with one word, unbroken. Later that night, Malik opened the drawer beside his bed. All the notes, the flyers, the certificate. The photo of his mom. He finally added something of his own, a letter, folded, sealed, addressed to no one, but it read, you can take the room. You can take the crowd. But if you can't touch the center, you can't touch the man. They didn't call it an award. They called it a dedication. A month after the suspension drama unraveled, after room 207 officially became a school-sanctioned wellness program, after the superintendent visited unannounced just to watch principal, Young made the announcement, in honor of resilience, leadership, and the quiet strength that changed this school's heartbeat. We're renaming room 207. Gasps filled the hallway. She turned the plaque over. The Malik Thomas Center for Focus and Discipline. It was the first time Malik ever truly looked surprised. He didn't speak, didn't move for a moment, just stared at the name, burned into bronze. Simple. Permanent. Jessica whispered, "Told you." Legacy. The ceremony was held in the courtyard. The same one where it all began. The benches were clean now. The old cracked tiles were replaced. Students stood in rows. No pushing. No laughing. Even Brent was there, silent, off to the side, head slightly bowed. Coach Hammond wore a suit. First time anyone had seen it. He didn't speak either, but he stood, which was enough. Principal Young spoke first, then Mrs. Camden. Then a surprise guest, Malik's old neighbor, Ms. Rowley. His mother used to teach the neighborhood kids how to hold their hands like this. She lifted her fists gently, but more importantly, how to lower them just as fast. Malik carries that same wisdom. When it was Malik's turn, he didn't walk to the mic. He simply stepped into the center of the courtyard and bowed. Once. Everyone bowed back, even the faculty, even Brent, even Coach Hammond. If you believe true change begins with calm courage, type unshakable in the comments. That evening, Malik stayed behind. The courtyard emptied, but he sat at the edge of the fountain, watching water ripple in soft waves. In his hands, the silver paper crane, unbroken. He looked up at the plaque on the school wall. Then at the bench. Then on the floor, and smiled, not for the cameras, not for the crowd. Just for himself. Black sneakers step across the marble again, but this time no laughter, no taunts. Only quiet. Because now, silence meant respect.